Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another G Crypto video. If you've been paying attention, you know that tomorrow, April 19th, Mortal Judgment, the new expansion for Gods Unchained, is dropping. And so in light of that, I wanted to take a second today to talk about the best cards that are coming out in each domain starting tomorrow. Welcome back to the video, you guys. Before we get started, do make sure to please do me a favor, do the stuff, right? Like, subscribe, all the things. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the Mortal Judgment expansion pack that is releasing tomorrow, because I am very, very excited about it. So you guys, today's video, like I said, we're gonna be talking about the best cards that are in each domain, but because there's a lot of domains, there's 6 domains plus neutral cards, I wanted to split this into 2 parts. So this is part 1, where I'll be covering Deception, Light, and Death. And first up on the list is Deception. Now I've picked what I think are the top 5 best cards in each domain that are going to be releasing tomorrow. So starting off with Deception, we have first up the Goblin Rally Boss. Now, the reason I think this card is going to be so awesome is for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a 3 mana cost, 3/2 card, so you can get it out pretty early. It has Tempt Fate, which means that it can buff some of your other cards. And also, when this creature attacks, you randomly summon a 1 mana creature from another domain, which is huge. There are so many incredible good 1 mana cost creatures from all kinds of different domains, whether that be light, nature, or magic, doesn't really matter. There are so many great options that are out there, and I think that this card will really allow you to hopefully fill the creature, or fill the board up rather, with a lot of 1 mana cost creatures that you can then buff and you can use to your advantage against your opponent. And any card that summons another creature whenever it attacks is a good card. So this is one of my top picks for Deception. Next up at 3 mana cost, we have Team Up. Now Team Up is you give Twin Strike, and at the end of this turn gain Hidden to every friendly creature. That's right, all of them for 3 mana. Now Hidden is huge because with Hidden you can't attack, you can't target them with spells, they're not valid targets. The only thing that can target a Hidden creature is some overall board wipe card, like an Inferno for Magic or an End Times for Death. So it really helps to protect your creatures and make sure that they can stay in the fight for a little while longer. And plus, just giving Twin Strike is huge. So it's just such a great addition, such a good card for 3 mana cost, and I think it's going to be used to great effect in Deception decks moving forward. The next card that I think is going to do really well is Armory Heist. Now Armory Heist gives +2 strength to each of your creatures and -2 strength to each enemy creature. And what this means is you can just give -2 strength, +2 strength to yours. That basically makes it a relatively effective board wipe card, especially if you can get it out relatively early in the game, because suddenly you're looking at a bunch of creatures that have a lot of strength and your opponent's creatures have a lot less strength. Also, a lot of frontline creatures only have like +2 attack anyway, or +1 attack, and so this basically renders them just useless because they go down to 0 strength and you can get them off of the board or what have you. So I think this is a really good card. I think we're going to see it to great effect, used to pretty solid effect in my opinion. So that's one of the ones that I like for Deception. Next up at 2 mana cost, we have Corrupting Influence. This might be one of the best cards here in Deception, but what you do is you randomly summon 2 1 mana creatures from another domain, and then you Tempt Fate and apply the buff to both of those creatures. So for 2 mana cost, you get 2 1 mana cost creatures, but then you get to add a buff on top of them, which is, I think, really, really cool. And especially for early game at 2 mana cost, you can get this out first turn if you want. If you have this card in your hand and you're going first with Deception, immediately you use a bag, summon, or you play this card. You got 2 1 mana cost creatures from a random domain, and they get buffed through Tempt Fate. So I think it's a great card. I think it'll be really, really effective, and I think we're going to see a lot of it. And then finally, we have Unlikely Pact, which allows you for 3 mana cost to add 3 random 1 mana war creatures to your hand. And I think that this stacks incredibly well with some of the other cards that are being added into Deception. You can take a look at the set, but I mean, just even Heroic Brawler here at the end of your turn, if this creature has the most strength, give +1/+1 to your weakest creature. So I mean, the way that these cards and summoning 1 mana cost creatures from lots of different domains, allowing you to fill your board, buff things up, I think it's going to be a really effective strategy for Deception, and one that we're going to see a lot. But that wraps up Deception, you guys. Moves us on to Death. First up on death, we have Curse of Greed, 2 mana cost, and you get to destroy an enemy creature with cost 3 or less. And then if you empower it, which is spending 3 mana, you get to add a Pharaoh's Heirloom to your hand. Now, one thing I will say about death, if you've looked at these cards, I swear half of them allow you to either as an afterlife or an ability or something else, add a Pharaoh's Heirloom to your hand, which is my next card. Not necessarily, I mean, it's tough because there's so many ways to use this. First of all, it's a 1 mana cost card, and it lets you summon a 2/1 Wretched Vanguard, which is a 1 mana cost creature anyway, but with Empower 2, you also summon a 2/2 Vile Reaver. So for 3 mana cost, you get 2 creatures, and I think that that's a pretty effective card at 1 mana. Next up, we have Pact Fiend. This one is nuts. 2 mana cost for a 6/1 creature. You deal 2 damage to your god, but you're playing death, you don't really care. And just, I mean, the 1 health sucks. The 1 health does suck because it's just tricky, right? But I mean, with 2, if you're not playing Magic and they can do Mage Bolt, you know, you're playing Light or you're playing War or something that just can't do that at-will damage the way like Selena's Mark and Mage Bolt can. I mean, immediately on your first turn, you can have a 6/1 Nether creature on the board, which is pretty nuts. So unless your opponent has something with frontline to get in the way, it's gonna be pretty effective. So just the fact that, I mean, 2 mana cost for a 6 attack creature is crazy, and I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of it. Next up, arguably the best card in Death that is coming with the expansion is this one, Lucky Devil. So it has backline, Tempt Fate, and once per turn, you destroy an enemy creature after it attacks. That is fucking bananas. 5 mana cost, 2/4 creature with backline, so has to be a spell to get targeted, or they gotta chew through everything with frontline, everything else you got on the field. But just once per turn, destroy an enemy creature after it attacks. Like, that's fucking nuts. And you know, no questions asked, destroy. This is an incredible card, I think, and if I get one, you bet your ass it's gonna be in my deck. And then finally, at number 5 slot for death, we have Asanoth, I don't know how you say it, Asanoth, Hand of the Pharaohs. Also backline, 4/4/4, and an ability is to summon a 1 mana Anubian from your void and give it deadly. So, you know, Anubian, your Vile Reaver, is there. Your Wretched Vanguard is there, also Anubian. And then plus, with your Pharaoh's Heirlooms, you can use those to summon additional 1 mana cost Anubians. So just the fact that at the end of your turn, or your ability, you summon one of those and give it deadly, this is a dirty card, and it's gonna get used a lot. But that wraps it up for death, you guys, and brings us over to light. First up on light, we have Bestowing Saint. First of all, love this artwork, cute little Saint Bernard or whatever the hell this thing is. But 2 mana cost, 2/1 creature, and at the start of your turn, you randomly heal a damage-friendly creature for 2, which I think is pretty solid. If it was the end of your turn, it might be a little bit better, but nevertheless, I think it's a good card. You can get it out early, and you know, if you get something with frontline out in front of it, it makes it so that at the start of your turn, that frontline creature can get healed over and over and over. So I think it's a pretty solid card for such a low mana cost, and I think we're going to be seeing some of it. Then again, time will tell, but overall, I think a good card. Next up, the second card that I think, another healing card, Engaged Healer, 2 mana cost, 2/2 with Echo. So it'll have some cool buff or something like that you can play. But at the end of each turn now, you randomly heal a damage-friendly creature for 1. So the way that, I mean, lots of healing here, right? I mean, it's light, that's kind of the theme. But the fact is that healing allows you to keep your creatures on the board for longer, but you get an Engaged Healer and a Bestowing Saint out on the field. Suddenly at the end and the beginning of each turn, you're healing stuff. Plus, if you have your God Power heal, if you have, you know, what is it called, Radiant Spirit, the healing can get pretty out of control, and you can just keep creatures at full health as much as possible. So, for first 2 cards, solid healing cards, and I think we'll see a lot of them, especially at their low mana cost. Next up, at 5 mana cost, we have the Warrant Issuer. So at the end of your turn, you summon a 1/1 Theric Militant, which the Theric Militant is further up here. It's a 1 mana cost, 1/1 creature, and creatures damaged by this creature get -1 strength, which is pretty cool. So your Warrant Issuer, at the end of your turn, you summon a 1/1 Theric Militant, which just happens every turn, which is nuts. And then with Empower 2, you summon another copy of this creature. So basically, if you spend 7 mana, you get 2 Warrant Issuers, and then at the end of those, those turns, they summon 2 more creatures. So suddenly, for the cost of 7 mana, you have 4 creatures on the board. You know, you've got 2 4/5s and then 2 1/1s, which is pretty crazy. 7 mana for 4 creatures is quite a bit. And then again, at the end of each of your turns, you just summon more. So it's a pretty crazy card and a pretty good one. I think arguably one of the better ones here. Next up, we have Line in the Sand. 2 mana cost, and you give each enemy creature can attack for 1 turn. Just can't do shit for 1 turn. This is a really good stalling tactic, a really good control, in my opinion. Gives you time to just, you know, have a turn to set things up, to maybe draw some more cards, to basically protect your god. And I think at 2 mana cost, it's a solid card that will be seen get a lot of use. And finally, one of the legendary cards from Light that is coming, a 4 mana cost spell that allows you to pick 2. The strongest creature gains -3/-2, which means it's a debuff for an enemy creature, or the weakest creature gains +2/+3, and each creature gains +1/+1. So if you are gonna do, you know, at 4 mana cost, it's still pretty early on that you can get that. You can give your, you can immediately give -3/-2 to one of your enemy's creatures and +2/+3 to one of yours, or just every creature gains +1/+1. I just think it's a very solid card and one that will get used quite a bit. So that wraps it up for part 1, you guys. Overall, I think that of all of these cards, I personally think that probably Death has gotten the most useful cards, the most interesting sort of variants, because it looks like they're really pushing the Anubian theme and the ability to continuously summon 1 mana cost Anubians from the void, which makes sense, you know, Death, Necromancy, bringing things back to life. But I think overall, of these 3, Death made it out the best, in my opinion. And I'm very curious to see how this new expansion is able to shake up the meta. Someone asked me recently for my predictions as to how things are going to change with the Mortal Judgment expansion. I personally think that we're going to see Death come back, as well as Deception sort of inch its way further up in the meta, because just I've been seeing a lot of sleep deception decks and control deception decks do really well, especially against Light, which is the dominating sort of deck or domain in the meta, which you can check out a video I talked about that here. But overall, I think that Death is going to do well. I think that Deception is going to do really well in this new expansion, and those are my predictions and my thoughts on all of the best cards for those 3 domains. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, right, do all the stuff, and stick around, because probably tomorrow or the day after, I'll be releasing part 2 of this video, where I go over War, Nature, Magic, as well as the neutral cards that are coming with the expansion. So again, guys, thank you for joining. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. So again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Don't forget to game it till you make it. Later, everybody.